Welcome to the Find and Follow podcast, where we are all about helping you find and follow Jesus in your everyday life. Back here with Kyle and Scott. Craig is on a little vacay this week. Undisclosed location.
I don't know where he is.
Okay. I do. He's in Vegas, so we can't talk about it. At least that's what I...
That's sketchy.
That the rules
Because
were.
what happens there, so...
I don't know. I haven't been there in a while, so... but he's there, hanging out, so we're filling in. We've got a guest today. Kenny is with us. Kenny Bahr. How do you spell your last name?
B-A-H-R.
Oh, there's a sneaky H in there.
There is.
Okay.
There is.
And you and Kyle are friends.
We go way back.
Way back.
Actually, I think about today, I think Kenny is the first fellow LPU graduate, except it was LPC when we were there.
Back in the day.
Life Pacific College / University.
San Dimas,
San Dimas, California.
California.
Kenny and I just barely missed each other. I think
It's true.
I graduated, I think, literally the next year. Or
Yeah.
What year did you go down?
2010.
Yep. So right
went
after I
down.
got done, Kenny came down, and then... So we got that in common.
You got in the
but
common.
not in
Are you
common.
from Spokane?
I am from North Spokane.
Okay. Were you trying to separate from the valley, or what were you doing there?
I didn't even know the valley existed in
right.
North Spokane.
There are some people. There's a stigma, like wait, there's a valley. Yes, there's people out here.
Yeah.
So North Spokane, that's where you grew up. Went
Mhm.
down there. You moved back, and you're on staff
At North Church.
up north.
Up north.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, a great church. So if you're listening up north and you need a church, check out North Church.
Come on down.
Yeah.
How long have you been at North Church on staff?
On staff, I've been there 7 years.
Okay.
7 years.
And what are you doing currently at the church up north?
I like to call myself the senior pastor whipping boy.
Okay,
But-
that's a long title, like on a business card. I don't really see that.
I put whipping boy. But I oversee our kind of adult discipleship program. And so if you say yes to Jesus, you want to get into a group, maybe a small group or a community group, if you want to do some classes. So that's primarily what I do, and then a handful of little things otherwise.
Kenny, you and I just met. I don't know where you're at on Gonzaga men's basketball program, but we do a little thing here called the Undefeated Streak Watch.
We've
Still
been doing
alive.
it, yeah, every week for
Still
the last
alive.
2 weeks.
2-0 as the date of recording. Just
They
crushed
play tonight,
Texas.
too. And if they don't
We'll
win
just
tonight,
call that 3-0.
Yeah, if they don't win
Are you
tonight...
not counting the Montana game?
No, just in division. Or
Oh,
just
okay.
since-
Yeah, we could go
Preseason,
4-0.
yeah. Yeah, okay.
Exhibition games. Because you can't go too far because you got Craziest in the kennel, so
Yeah,
they
that's true.
tied each other. Like, that's weird.
Okay.
But yes, on the official scorecard, we're 2-0.
Yes.
Yeah,
And-
if they don't win tonight, I might not be able to show my face as a
No,
Zags
we'll
fan.
just, I mean, they're 3-0.
Oh, yeah, it's happening.
Yeah. By the time most people listen to this, because we'll put it out later in the week, they're going to be 3-0. We'll
Yes.
just call it early. Because the first half of the Texas game, throw an NBA team at them, and I would be like, sure, that was
Throw
phenomenal.
like 3 people at Timmy, and he could just do whatever he wanted to.
That
Just-
was, and not to get too deep in this, but the commentators,
Right.
they're like, the Texas offense came, blah, blah. I'm like, let's talk about the Zags defense. It's not so much Texas offense. They were shutting them down. It was off the charts unreal.
I don't know where you're at with Zags, but I do know you're a Seahawks fan, which is hard this year.
It is really hard this year.
But
There's
So-
football going on?
yeah.
Okay.
It's embarrassing. But you actually went to a game this year, right?
I did. It was the first time ever.
Yeah. How was that?
It was wonderful because we had some people in our church just called me up one day and said, "Hey, we have free tickets, got free airfare, free hotel. Do you want to go?" And I was like, I legitimately had to like pinch myself.
Yeah.
Which
And
game?
It was the Saints game.
Okay.
And
They ended up losing that one, right?
They did.
But
Our
barely.
kicker couldn't kick to
Oh,
save
yeah.
his life.
Wasn't that, but it was real close? Wasn't it real close?
It was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I think people thought it was going to be. But yeah, we lost. Just like every game.
Where were your seats?
We were kind of in the top end, but in the corner, which it was raining a lot that day. And I realized what a win it was because I was dry the whole entire time.
Oh, you're under the cover.
I was
Oh,
under the
nice.
cover.
How loud is it there? Was it, because it just, the talk
Yeah.
is like it's off the charts. They've done the meter reading, all
Right.
that kind of stuff.
It got pretty loud when the defense, when you're trying to scream, it gets really loud. But it's like you can still talk to somebody. But I don't know. Maybe if I was down closer towards the field.
Yeah,
then-
no, it's super loud. I mean, you hear that. I remember I talked to a few people the first time. I've went to one game ever.
Yeah.
And I talked to people, and they were like, hey, it's like deafening loud. And it's loud. Don't get me wrong.
It
It's
is loud.
But it's not like I can't function. My head hurts.
Yeah.
Like you've been to a concert. It's like that, but it's steady. It's just people cheering. And again, especially, and it quiets down when you're on offense. But then when you're on defense, it's definitely loud, sustained loud for a long time.
I think they designed the whole thing to where it echoes downward. So if you're on like the 50-yard line down on the field, that's where it is the loudest too.
I bet they're all about the home field advantage, sneaky like that. With the Seahawks yesterday, did you guys watch the game yesterday?
Yes.
I didn't get to watch it.
Did you have audio trouble? Was it just my? Okay. I figured it was just my connection, or we used YouTube TV, and so it was the crowd noise was at 2%. You could never hear the ref, and the quality of the commentators was like in a tin can, and it was just them, and it was Nance and Romo commentating, and it was so bad and so dry.
No,
I thought
it was normal on TV.
Yeah, I figured it was just our connection or something with. It was so weird to not have the crowd noise and the whole experience and all that. That is like 80% of the volume and the atmosphere, and then to hear just the silence when they weren't commentating, and then Tony Romo would pipe up, and then you say he's getting paid to say those comments. One time he was like, "Yeah, coach said and something about and blah blah blah." And I was like, your expert advice and analysis of this moment is blah blah blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Like he said blah,
he
blah,
said
blah.
blah, blah, blah. He's like, and coach said, well, on defense, we got to pick it up and blah, blah, blah. And Amy's in another room in the kitchen. She goes, did he just say blah, blah, blah? Because that's all you could hear like in the house. I'm like, yep, he gets paid for blah, blah, blah. I was like, this is so bad.
I sometimes feel like I get paid for blah, blah, blah too, though. But
okay, let's not make it
sometimes I feel like
personal.
This podcast is a little bit blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Well, let's dive in a little bit. Kenny, you don't know where we've been at, but I bet you can just jump right in where we've been at for podcasts and on Sundays at Mission Church. We've just been talking about high-sounding nonsense in Colossians 2:8. Paul's warning them that there's a truth out there about Jesus and the good news, and then there's this other stuff that is high-sounding nonsense or empty philosophies or human thinking, stuff that comes from the darkness, the evil that's out there, and we get captured by it, caught up with it, thinking it's the truth. So this last Sunday, Kyle just talked about the truth, the high-sounding sense, if you will, that the good news of Jesus. And so Romans 1:16, I'm going to read it from the New Living Translation, actually, to kind of help set the tone of where we're at. And then, again, having our guests on, people love to hear your story about how you found Jesus, and we'll jump into that. But Romans 1:16, 17 says this, "For I'm not ashamed of this good news about Christ. It is the power of God at work, saving everyone who believes, the Jew first and also the Gentile. This good news tells us how God makes us right in his sight. This is accomplished from start to finish by faith. As the scriptures say, it is through faith that a righteous person has life." And we talked a lot about, the opposite of that in Romans 1 last week on the podcast, just trading out, this truth of who God is and the good news and how we're made right with God, and trading it for stuff that's just foolishness. And people began to think up their own foolish ideas of what God is like, and their minds became dark and confused. And we just see that over and over in our culture and in our world. And for us, we've just been talking about going way back. It goes back to the lie of the enemy going, hey, God's holding out on you, Adam and Eve. You want to be like God? Oh, you weren't made in the image of God. You want to be like God? You should have the ability and the authority to decide what's good and evil, what's right and wrong. You do you, bro. You do you. If it's okay, you do you, I'll do me, and we'll just kind of all live together, and it'll work out that somehow truth is relative, and somehow I can just pick my own way, you can pick your own way, and it all works out fine. And it doesn't. And it's because it's not our universe. We didn't make it. And so that's where we've been at. And so love to talk about some of that today as far as just the good news of Jesus. And I heard this example the other day from a different podcast, and I was like, man, this is so good. And maybe you've used it in youth ministry, or maybe, Kenny, you've come across it. But he said there's 3 people, and they went skydiving. And so before they got in the plane, person 1 thought they just absolutely believed with all of their heart and all of their feelings that they were going to fly. Like, they just knew it was real. And so they put on a Superman outfit. The second person just thought when they jump out, they're going to go up Like that was their truth. That was their reality.
No
That's what they
gravity.
believed. So they put on a spacesuit because they were going to go up. And the third person thought, when I go out, I'm going to go down, so I'm going to put a parachute on. And the three of them get in the plane, and they jump out, and what happens?
They all go down.
They all go down, right? And it's a like, well, duh. And the point is that regardless of how you feel about it, that truth isn't subjective, that there is objective truth out there. And so if we think that's true about jumping out of an airplane, like how do we think it's not true about life? And then when we die here on earth, like what happens next? Like, oh, it's whatever you think and feel in the moment will be true. Well, how come we can't do that with gravity then? If we're so powerful that we can determine that for an afterlife or life after death, why can't we do that for gravity? Like, well, because we don't get to have subjective truth. There's objective truth out there. And I thought that's a really good, I think, a 10-year-old can grab that example pretty easily. So anyways, so I just didn't know have you guys ever heard that one?
I have never heard that one.
Okay.
I've never heard that example.
I've jumped out of an airplane twice.
Really?
Did you
Yeah.
fly or did you go up or?
I had because you have to be trained, so I had a guy strapped to
Yep.
my back, and then on his back he had a parachute. We had no Superman outfits.
Did you like talk to that guy beforehand
Yes.
and like just made sure he was good?
So the first time we went, yes, absolutely, because it's kind of nerve-wracking.
Your whole life is in that guy's hands.
Kenny, you are spot on. You were on this.
Like-
I recommend like jumping out of an airplane. It's great. I would do it again.
Yeah.
All the time. But yeah, we show up at the hangar. I'm not joking. There are children packing the chutes.
No.
Yep. Like
how
repacking
old?
them.
When you say children,
Like 12, 13
No
year olds,
way.
15. Yes.
and you got on,
It's like a
Right?
family-run business.
Yep, kind of.
Oh man.
It seemed legit, right?
it seemed legit.
Yeah, it seemed
What are
legit.
you considering legit,
Everything,
Scott?
yeah, everything you're saying right now seems not legit.
You're telling me never go to wherever you went.
I'm not gonna say the business name, but
You're
if you
still alive.
Yeah, you wouldn't either.
if you Google like how to skydive near Spokane, there's
Yeah, I was
there's
gonna
like
say there's
one
two,
place.
Two places. I'm pretty sure you did the same place that most people around here do.
So
Yeah,
this
one-
kid who
one
got
was in
failed
Seattle.
geometry, but yeah, is packing this kid's your chute. Okay.
So, like, it's pretty like run you through pretty quick. Like, here's safety meeting, show you a little video, do this when you get out. Like, it's real quick because you got a person that's qualified strapped to your back. You meet them, and then basically you get in the plane. So it's not like, hey, here we go. So we're getting in, and you're tight in there. It's real tight.
Yeah.
Everyone's jammed in, and then your 5-point harness strapped to another dude. For me, and so it's tight. It's like,
You're there.
yeah,
It's a small.
never
You're
been
cuddling.
never been that personal
You're
with another
cuddling
dude.
with this guy.
Yeah.
You are the little
spoon. Yeah, for sure.
Right, and right before you go out, they like cinch all the straps real tight, and so in
I
the
kinda
plane
like
ride,
that.
there's a little room, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna get tighter. You're like, I didn't know we could get tighter. Here we go. But on the way up, Kenny, to your point, I literally asked him, I go, are we all good? Like, did you pack your chute? We're set. Literally,
I
asked
just
him.
want to know, like, you're not feeling depressed. Like, you're not, like, you're excited about life.
This was my birthday present. Yeah.
But that's what I'm asking this dude, right? Like, I just want to know this isn't his final day.
Yes.
Right? And you're just a part of it.
I don't know. We didn't chat much. It's real loud in there. So
Yeah.
I asked him, you packed your chute? You're like, we're checked. He goes, no, I didn't pack it.
My
He said
12-year-old
that to
did.
you?
Yeah, so the kid, so I'm thinking, oh, the kids in the hangar that I saw packed, I'm sure they had adult supervision. I'm sure it was all legit. We jumped
You're
out of the plane.
assuming a lot at that
It's
point.
so great. It was wonderful. Look, I'm here today talking about
That's
it.
true. That's
So,
I mean,
true.
we
there
can't
you go.
knock it.
You can't
'cause
argue that.
You are here.
Yeah, and then I did it again a few years later because it's awesome. So,
Yeah.
There you go.
There
but
you go.
anyways, put the parachute on. Don't put the space suit. Don't put the Superman
Yeah.
suit on.
Yeah.
Good news of Jesus. So, Kenny, we'd love to hear your story. How did you find Jesus?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in North Spokane, and when I was about third grade, my dad was working with the DEA here in Spokane, and my mom, who was a nurse at that time for the hospital, Sacred Heart, kind of felt guided to go help plant this church in North Spokane, and so we did that. And kind of during that process, we got up every 5 a.m. to help plant this church, and kind of grew up in church. Mom became a pastor when I was in fourth grade, and so knew a lot about God. I just knew all the answers, And, I know I need to pray more at Sunday school. I know I should read my Bible more. I shouldn't punch my sister in the face. I get it. And somewhere in my high school time, I had a small group leader really ask me some hard questions about who is God for me. And then when I went to camp, I had a cabin leader who says, I think you know who Jesus is. I don't think you actually have a relationship with him. And I got real mad at that point because I'm like, screw you, dude.
What did you think? Like at that point when they said that, obviously kind of offended, but.
Oh, I was offended because I'm like, you know who my mom is. Like, I grew up in church. Of course, I know who Jesus is. And the fact that you kind of are presenting this, do I actually know who he is, kind of made it like, do you even know who I am? And after having this conversation and realizing, oh, God isn't just somebody up there that you need to follow X, Y, and Z rules and just believe in his son, but he actually wants to have this relationship with you. And that's part of being led by the Spirit, which for me growing up was just all this hocus pocus scripture stuff they talk about, and realizing, oh no, that God actually wants to have a relationship with you. And so at that point I was like, I don't know who Jesus is. And that's where I really started walking out and realizing the Bible isn't just something we read, to Christian checkbox. It's, man, this is God trying to speak to me. And prayer is an opportunity for me not to just say, bless this food to my body, but, man, God, I'm dealing with something right now. Could you speak to me? Worship isn't just singing songs. It's, God, thank you for sending your son for me. Like, I need to praise you at this moment. And so that's kind of how I started my walk in relationship with Jesus. And my junior year, I felt him say, hey, go be a pastor, and fought with him on that, and ended up going to LPU, LPC. So, yeah.
So do you remember when that leader asked, kind of point that out, which is a brave, courageous move for someone, right?
Yeah.
To say, hey, like, you're kind of doing all the right things, but I don't know that it's totally genuine. That's, good on them for that. But do you remember, like, what was the motivation to go, no, I do know who God, wait, maybe I don't. And what was drawing you to, like, I really do want to know who Jesus really is? Like, what part of that was for you a key?
I think in that moment when I was at camp, it was just this hard hit of, you grew up with this idea of there's a God who made everything, right? And that's cool. And he has plans for the world. And he might have plans for that person or that person. But for this idea of, in that moment for me, was the God who created everything actually wants to hang out with me. That heaven isn't just this place. It's, well, I can actually spend time with somebody. And God actually wants to be with me. That to me just clicked. I mean, everybody wants to feel loved and cared about, right? You're like 14 or something, your freshman year of high school, you want somebody to say, I love you for who you are. And for the fact that there's a God out there who says, I just want to actually spend time with you, that you don't have to be perfect, that you can just come as you are. For me as a high schooler, it was like, there's somebody out there who wants to spend time just because I'm me. And that was incredibly drawing for me of, okay, yeah, I want to explore that,
Yeah, that's really cool, because there was obviously the Holy Spirit was at work in your entire life. And I'm sure you'd heard that before, that, Jesus wants a personal relationship with you, but there's something there in that moment where you were receptive to him. And, that's for all of us to go, hey, I personally need to respond to the good news of who Jesus is.
Yeah.
And it's not just a family thing or a what we did as growing up thing or some association, but just because I go to a church or whatever, but this understanding that the good news is for me personally. And
absolutely.
I need to personally respond and make a decision.
Yeah.
And that's what Kyle, you were talking about on Sunday, just how important, it's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Paul gets into that in 1 Corinthians 15, but like, hey, you forget everything else. Like, you got to get the most important thing right. And this is knowing Christ and the reality and the real truth of who he is, the good news.
Yeah, and then responding to that. I mean, because Kenny's story is similar to a lot of stories, right? Like, I knew all this stuff, and I knew the Bible stories and the songs and the scripture memorization
Right.
and I Awanas badges or whatever it is, right? And
you got a sash?
I didn't ever
with
do
his
Awanas.
badges?
I didn't know any of that stuff before meeting Jesus because
I don't
didn't
know.
go to the church.
Do guys get a sash?
Oh, I still think you get the sash.
Or do you have like a
I
uniform?
thought it was a vest.
It's a vest.
Oh, it's a
I thought the
vest.
guys
I'm gonna
have
go
a
with a vest. Yeah.
That sounds right.
Uh-huh.
Never did any of that, but you get my point, right? That you can know all of these things, and I talked a little bit about this week, is gaining all this knowledge, but then forgetting the response to the gospel message of who is Jesus and what does Jesus have for you. And well, I know about Jesus and I know all the right answers and I know the story, but have I welcomed it? Have I received the gospel? Does it affect who I am? Does it affect how I act? Does it affect my intimacy with my Heavenly Father and the relationship that He wants to have with me? Am I understanding the gospel messages, how it pertains to my relationship with Jesus? Or just, yeah, that's news. That's good news. Like, we got a new puppy, or, it's Christmas time, we get presents. Like, no, there's this good news that unfolds into our lives and defines everything about us. And that's the message of Jesus, is what are we doing with that and receiving that?
So Kenny, for you, what's been like something that's been significant since those high school times for you? Is like here's an emphasis for me personally when I'm following Jesus, and therefore I'm helping others to do the same. Like, sometimes people in their story or their background, it kind of more of like emphasize God's forgiveness or God's grace or the community and the kingdom of God, or just these different kind of emphasis. And not that we're ignorant or not focused on the other stuff, but it's sometimes just because of our part in the body of Christ, our story, or maybe the season we're in, there's kind of an emphasis that God is using us to help ourselves and for others. For you, you look back in the last, I don't even know how many years it is. I was going to put a number there, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm totally guessing.
I'm just that 12-year-old kid packing your chute.
Dude, they probably weren't 12. I mean, that's just what in my mind, it was like.
I'm thinking of
was
the
very
place that
shocked.
you went, and I'm thinking I would not be surprised in that city if there was 12-year-old kids packing their shoes.
It's not even a city. It's outside of Ritzville. It's like you drive up to a field. There's kind of like a
to your question though. I think after I started really actually having this relationship and following Jesus, I found a lot of direction in my life. At that point, it was all about me, what I want to do with my life. And I remember once again being at camp a couple years later, really having this drive of, I'm going to go into the military and fly helicopters and do all this jazz. And I remember God saying, hey, I want you to be a pastor. And I was very against that because my mom was a pastor. And I just saw everything that she went through, and I was like, screw that. I don't want to do that. And I remember God really pushing it with me and sending people to tell me about it and people praying over it. And I was just, no way. I remember He gave me this image of like a plane. And He goes, you could go your whole life driving a plane on the ground. If you want to do that, you can go for it. Or you can fly it how I intended to. Your choice. And I just remember believing at that moment, like, okay, if you have good things for me, if what you actually say in this Bible is real, like, fine, I'll try it out. And ever since then, I find myself so relieved in my future of just knowing that God has this plan for me. And even with things that are going on around us, even today, I just have this real comfort of just, God has a plan. I'm going to walk with it and hopefully fly this plane how He wants to. So
that's super cool. I mean, we talk a lot around here about putting people in their sweet spots and understanding your sweet spot. I love that analogy that beautiful image that God gave you. That's like, you could do this and probably be pretty successful and quote unquote happy and but that's not your sweet spot. That's not what you were created for. I got all these giftings and all these sweet knobs and things that do things with your life, right? Like, I've built you this way that I don't know airplane controls.
I say you've flown a lot of planes.
I'm loving that you're just saying knobs and twisty
and
things.
Buttons.
There's something about pushing something forward I've seen.
Just say yoke and you'll
a
be...
yoke?
Yeah,
is that
a
thing?
yoke.
That's a real deal?
The throttle?
Yeah, the yoke is what you
here's our
steer
part.
with.
I am terrified of flying, though.
But
That's
like
the hard
real
part.
life flying, not flying with Jesus.
Like, we
flying.
had to fly to go to the Seahawks game, and my wife sat next to me, and I was like, just give me a whole bottle of Benadryl right now so I could just fall asleep.
Really?
I just hate it. I don't know what it is. I've tried the whole, like, watching how planes work. I heard that works. Does not work.
Are you like scared that you're gonna die, or are you just like
no? I'm scared I'm gonna live forever. Like, what do you mean?
Like,
yeah, of course.
Is that like
like a motion. I think you're motion sickness,
Yeah,
or
I've
is
been
it
wanting to be
the
like,
fear of
plane,
you're
like
terrified.
as soon as it takes off, you feel the rumbling. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's like at one point we're flying and the airplane pilot goes, "Stewardess, I need you to go sit down."
In your mind,
sounds serious?
And I'm like, why? Like we're 5 minutes into this, and of course, then the plane does what I don't think the plane should do. It like goes corners, it does that
yeah.
thing. It doesn't like
Up
we're
and,
just
it goes
bumping.
left and right.
And I'm just
you just mind goes to the immediate worst.
I am
place.
telling everybody what I think at that moment. Like
That is awesome.
and
roller
so-
coasters. Or you
I can do roller coasters.
Okay.
I'm not the biggest on heights, but I can do roller coasters because in my mind it's doing what I think it should do.
Okay.
Maybe that's what it is, but
You feel a little more like it's.
I mean, but
it's-
like the statistics, like flying is so safe.
100%, dude.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's so safe out there. Yeah, 100%.
100%. Now, I'm a huge roller coaster guy, amusement park. But to my point of the shoot packing people, you go to Silverwood or you go to some of these other places. You go to the Spokane Interstate Fair, the carnivals. Have you seen the attendance?
Oh, for sure. I was just
They
gonna
are
say,
like high school kids, right? And
You
you're
go to
like,
Silverwood.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're fine. You guys know if this is breaking down, right? Or if it's
Yeah.
gonna, if the bolt's rattling, that's a normal rattle or not. Like,
Yeah.
it's scary.
Well, you live in North Idaho, so I mean, like you go to Silverwood, the lifeguards are like 13 and a half, and they're in a wave pool that's like one of the most like wave
Yeah.
pools are like
Here's
let's
the
simulate.
thing:
They're tight.
13-year-olds are not building the
I know, but you're
the
putting-
roller coaster.
You're asking
They're
a
hitting
13
the one button on there.
You're asking a 13-year-old to save your
Yeah.
300-pound dude's life if he's dying in a wave pool.
Oh, that's
Those
true.
lifeguards are real tight. If you're doing too close to the wall, all that
Dude,
kind of
that's
They
stuff.
always
yell
get
at you
you,
really
man.
good with authority.
Yeah.
So, Kenny, you're married.
I am.
How long you been married?
8 years.
Nice. That's awesome. You got any kids?
We have two,
Okay.
3-year-old and a 1-and-something-year-old.
Right. Just say 1-year-old.
Okay, thank
It's
goodness.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone told me, I said, how old's your
months.
daughter? They said 14 months. And I was telling these people, like, yeah, this guy, he said he had a 14-month-year-old. I was like, wait, you don't say that. I had
Yeah, it's
Months.
Yeah, it's a parent thing.
Yeah.
It's like what kids do when they're 6 3/4. You're like,
Yeah.
just say 6. It's fine.
You're
Yeah,
just
I
caught up
get
in
it.
the excitement of your first kid, so you want to name every month, take a nice little picture.
The blanket picture with the documentation of the
Exactly.
things. Yeah.
And then when you have your second kid, you just kind of give up. Like, it'll grow. So,
yeah, it's like pregnancy, like the selfies in the mirror. Here's 1 month, 2 months, 17 months.
100%.
You took a lot of those?
No, I'm just saying that's a thing. I'm
It's
just
100%.
connecting with
He's
Kenny. I get it.
100% on it. That's a deal.
First kid, like you go to the store, you
Yes.
go to the Costco or the Fred Meyer, you see the mom or dad with the like full cover blankie over the child sitting area so they can't lick the handles and all that kind of stuff and like all the accoutrements. You go, first kid.
100%.
Third kid, you're like, there's 2 of them. Where's the third one? I don't know.
Yeah.
Aisle 6. I don't know. They got caught up.
All I know is they didn't leave the store.
Yeah, as far as I know,
Hopefully.
I just
Yeah.
yell one time. They'll probably come back. We're not sure. And then like third kid's licking the cart. You're like, you should probably stop.
That's a
It's
third
fine.
kid, and the dad is around.
Yeah, exactly. That's how that goes down. Where are we at now?
You asked about Kenny's wife and kids.
Oh yeah, that's super
years
great.
ago.
You were making some other. We have got on some great rabbit trails.
yeah, I
You were
was
making
just-
like an important point.
I just really appreciated the analogy. Again, we talk a lot about sweet spot and just this idea.
Oh, there we
that-
go. That's
that
where
the-
we were
the
at, sweet
plane,
spot.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, hey, Kenny, you can fly this plane. Like your life, you can. There's lots of different avenues that like would be quote unquote successful for you. But like, here's what I built you for, and here's your sweet spot. Here's where your giftings and your passion, and then the need for your community and
Yeah.
your area line up. And when you do that, you take flight, man.
Right.
And you go to the next level. And so, understanding what that is in your
Yeah.
life for our listeners, understanding like, man, what is it that God has gifted me uniquely for that I am me and I'm, nobody else is that. And then where are these passions and these giftings that God has and then a
Right.
need for you to,
Yeah.
because, maybe you're just chugging along going, yeah, it's good. And,
Yeah.
I'm happy or I'm doing the thing, but maybe there's more or maybe God just wants to excel that in your life to the
Yeah.
next area.
Well, and we experience, I'm sure you guys do too. It's just because you say yes to Jesus and you're following doesn't mean he's going to make you a pastor. And I think a lot of times people think like, if I say yes and follow him, it means I'm going to be this person's. Not all of us are going to be pastors, right? Not all of us are called to be these people. Some of us are called to be Christ followers in this area where nobody else is. That could be your purpose. It could align with what God put in your heart, but I like living that way.
Yeah.
I like living in what the quote unquote sweet spot.
Yeah, and so you guys are intelligent people. Let me ask you this question. Why is it so difficult for us to embrace the gifting and the roles that God has given us? Why is there always this, but I want to be someone else, do something else. I'm going to go to the military, fly the planes, or I don't know. I'm not, I want to be the teacher because the teaching gift looks kind of cool, but I have more of the hospitality gift. And so why is it sometimes hard and difficult for us to lean in fully to like, this is who I am. This is the amount of faith God has given me. This is the grace that God has given me. This is the gift that God has given me, like Romans 12, just like there's different gifts on purpose. Like, and that's a good thing. So why is it difficult for us to embrace that? Because I think that's a lot of us. It's like, I just want to be someone a little bit different than me, or a little bit, quote unquote, better version of, when I see in other people. Why do you guys think that's difficult? How do we help people listening in here?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think there's so many different ways to answer it. I mean, to give one blanket that would to do it, I think there's so many. Well,
what's
things.
A piece of it? Then?
Yeah, I think a lot of times we like to be comfortable, and I think even throwing the Christian blanket over it, going, God wants me to be comfortable and happy and healthy, and there's some truth to that. And then we use that to go, God wants me to be in my comfort zone. And I would go, you know what? I don't think that's quite true. I think God wants you to branch outside of your comfort zone and watch how he's able to use you. So specifically to Kenny's story, like, yeah, being a pastor might be uncomfortable. I've seen this thing in my mom's life and in this area, and I'm like, I'm not, I would rather be comfortable and do the things that are easier or safer or whatever it is, or more, in line with what I think. And so I think that's a part of it. And I think, again, even in our little Christian circles, we think that our comfort zone is a good place to be. And I've always challenged students that I think when you're in your comfort zone, there's not a lot of growth that's happening there. There's not a lot of, ministry happening there to other people, or to evangelism and discipleship and moving through this. It's just I'm comfortable and I'm happy and I'm healthy and I'm just doing what I want to do. And when we move out of that comfort zone into maybe a little discomfort in a growing pain in a growth area, or to move into what God has for us, we watch those gifts and abilities and we stretch them and we move them and they grow in that. So I think that's a tiny part of it.
Yeah, I like that. I'd say I just ask people, who's leading your life? Is that you, or is it God leading your life? Because if God's leading your life, he's going to stretch you, like Kyle's saying, right? You can't grow without being uncomfortable. But if God's leading your life, then he's going to ask you to do stuff that I think you're just never going to really honestly want to do sometimes. I don't think Jesus wanted, obviously, to go to the cross. I don't think Paul wanted to do what he was doing, but he was led by the Spirit. And I think today in our world, we still, even though we might have said yes to Jesus, we still want to lead our own lives, and we want to do what we want to do. And we're no different than Adam and Eve at that point in saying, well, I do still want to be the Lord of my own life. But in my mind, I've said yes to Jesus, but in my heart, I'm still leading it. And so that leads, I think, to people saying, well, I want to be gifted in this area, so I want to go do this, instead of Jesus is leading me to this area, and I don't want to do it, but he said to, so I'm going to go do it.
Yeah, good. Which is a hard and more mature spot to get to.
Yep.
Because I think you're right with, we were talking about this actually last week in our community group, just the feeling and what love is, right? And it's a feeling, but it's also just a decision, a choice. Yeah. It's patient. It's, enduring. And Jesus didn't feel, like on the human side, like going to the cross.
Heck
like
no.
He was negotiating, is there another way out? But through his obedience to the Father, he was going, this is the only option. And he knew that. But I don't think he, just on a purely emotional level, felt like, this is going to be fun.
This is so exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But that's love, right? That he loved us so much that he endured the cross. So because of the joy set before him, he knew the resultant and knew this is the only way to be made right with God, through faith. And that's always been the case. So sometimes I think with the sweet spot, though, as you, maybe it's a get older thing, as you know who you are a little bit more, and you're just like, this is how I serve people pretty well. Like, I know this is how God's gifted me, and this is how I can serve people and encourage them. And you kind of land on that, and you know that, but then you go, but I kind of want it to be something else. Because you look at someone else's life and go, they encourage or they serve this way, and that looks better. Yeah. I think we can get caught up in going, and again, it's not like a grow in your skills or get better at it or you know have better interpersonal relational skills or have more empathy or develop your teaching skill more. It's just like I just kind of want to be them. Like how have you maybe experienced that in helping people as they're saying yes to Jesus and discovering who they are and jumping into community and they're like trying to be somebody that God hasn't created them to be? And we have this you do you and whatever you know whatever you think can be true in your life, as long as you dream it, it can happen in your life, Kenny. It'll just all work out.
100%. Yeah, I had a youth leader back in the day that was a phenomenal youth leader, like small group leader. He took his kids out to, go do a bunch of these junior high boys out and do stuff. But he really wanted to teach on Wednesday nights. And every single time, like I'd put him up to do like announcements or the game, he would just freeze. He would freak out. He would stutter. And it would but he kept saying, hey, I want to speak. I just don't know if you're gifted in this, dude. And he just kept going. And at one point we had to bring him and said, okay, so when Jesus talks about the fruit and having fruit in your life, here's where your fruit is, dude. Do you see all these kids coming to know Jesus? And through you, dude, like I just say stuff on Wednesday nights and try to gear them somewhere, but you are being Jesus to them. That's fruit right there. You getting up in front of people is not really producing fruit, homie. Like, I love you. I care about you. I'm so thankful for you, but it's not producing fruit. And I want you so much and care about you so much to produce fruit because I get it. Like, I get up and speak. We see Kyle get up and speak, and we just are like, oh, my gosh, how can I be more like Kyle? And it's easy to do that, but the other parts is there's people that are producing fruit. If I tried, I'm like the least hospitable person on planet Earth. I'm like, you can come to my house. I'll try to clean up before you get here, and we'll hang out. But then when I'm trying to be that, instead of somebody working in their sweet spot, they produce way more fruit than I do. And so I'm like, man, I need those people a part of my team as well.
That's good.
So
That's the point I was going to hit in the secondary part, because we talk about this and we talk about this a lot with, I think it's a humility thing, right? In that, so the two extremes that you talk about, and you guys have referenced both of them, is the one it's like, oh, woe is me, I'm not good enough, I don't I don't have anything to give. And like, no, do you notice how you have an amazing gifting here, right? Like, oh, I can't speak like Kenny, or I can't do that thing like this person. Like, yes, it's not your gifting, but you have something to offer. So that's the first part of it, is understanding full on you have an amazing gift and you have strengths and you have things to give to the team. And then the other part of it is the, kind of the opposite of that. And we think that we're amazing, right? We think that we have all of this stuff, and here's my gifting, and I'm God's gift to the world or the church or whatever it is, and not
I am Jesus,
and not understanding. Again, I think as you were starting that up, why, and we wrongly shift our focus in this direction instead of understanding where it fits and how it fits well. And so I think, just to answer your question, rewind to it, like, what is the problem? I think a lot of it's just rooted in that humility aspect, understanding who I am and understanding the big team picture of what I do fits into this really, really well.
Yeah, Jesus going, do you want to fly the plane, Kenny, or just drive it on the ground? Like, that's full circle. Like, my skydiving story and your plane, like, that's pretty cool.
Look at that.
So before we got rolling, Kenny, you were saying you were starting to talk about, I just asked you, like, what have you been working on or what you're fired about, passionate, and you said THC. And someone from Idaho, and you said THC. I didn't know if like a Washington business thing was popping up or something. And then I got curious. I said, well, let's just save it for when we're rolling. So you got a THC thing going?
Yeah, so we have a church property where the back half of the property really isn't used. It's a lot of wood area. We have this field that we kind of do events on. And as a church, we've always been wondering, what can we use this property for? Because we're not using it right now. And how can we steward it better? And so we have this idea of developing a tiny home community.
Oh, okay.
And we've joked all the time on staff, THC.
Yeah. And we love analogies in the church, or not analogies, but acronyms in the church world. So
yes. So this tiny home community is something we're working on, because we work with a lot of Spokane nonprofits, Life Services, who helps young moms who with pregnancy. We partner with UGM, people getting through drugs and alcohol and homelessness. And we all these people, they go through these programs and they graduate and they're like, hey, I'm better now, but I can't afford the $2,000 rent apartments. And we actually don't have this long-term church community. And so we thought, well, you can buy, funny enough, you can buy these like tiny homes on Amazon. And so
No, you can't.
and
they just ship it
come
to
in
you?
kits.
They're like a shed. You've never
They're
you
like a
haven't seen
shed.
those?
Yeah.
We're back to like the Sears catalog from the 20s.
Yeah.
You just buy your
100%.
buy your
house.
home
Yeah.
kit.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so we talked about, well, what if we had these tiny home communities where we had 10 or so of them and they could rent them at nowhere near the cost of what it rents. But it's a stepping stone of, hey, you could live here, continue this process of your not only your own health development, but maybe your spiritual discipleship and being a part of our church and help you grow to where you can live on your own in society. And so we've been working through this pre-COVID, and then, you know, right as we were about to like click order on Amazon, COVID hit and we had to put a halt to it. But now we're kind of back up to it and saying, hey, how can we develop these to help people in our community live?
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
cool.
$9,000 for a
like,
150
did you
square
just
foot
get-
cabin kit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You didn't believe him? You had
No,
to
I
check
did. I
in
just
the
didn't know.
let me
Thank you.
double check it's on Amazon.
I just want to know what's the price on that these days. Is it Prime? Am I going to see that by Thursday?
Is that where you're going to get one for your kids? Like they can move out into the backyard?
They would love it. My boys would love it.
Little kid shed.
Yeah, that's cool to create some long-term community because that's a real need.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
people.
Spokane it is for sure.
Yeah, homeless or drug life or
Mhm.
criminal background. You're like, it's just not automatic to go, I'll just go rent an apartment, get a job. And
Right.
no, there's
There's a process.
substantial in-between process, usually a multi-year,
Mhm.
at least a year, sometimes 2 years to get your footing. So you guys are just, that's cool to be brainstorming on that and think about people need community. People need, we all
Yeah.
do, like, right? That's part of how God's built us.
100%.
Talk about sweet spot. We all have to be in some form of in-person community.
Mm-hmm.
You guys seen this Meta thing, right?
Facebook Meta?
Facebook.
Facebook Meta?
Yeah.
That they're paying $20 million for that name?
They were?
Yeah, there's already a Meta, a laptop company or a
I don't know the company, but some other company had that name.
That's already named Meta.
And they said Facebook can have that name for $20
It's
million.
$20 million.
Oh, wow.
Which for Zuckerberg's like a drop in the bucket. Like,
Sure.
okay, yeah, sure.
If you want it, just go buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is, correct me if you guys are up to speed more than me. Isn't it just like a kind of an augmented reality kind of thought going forward to like grow that way? Is that, or am I missing something there? I thought
the
I heard that
community
piece.
of Meta.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just always trying to expand that idea of understand the networking and the next phase of networking. So
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think there's sure we can talk about some of the beauty of connection through digital stuff, and it's
Yeah.
nice to be able to text people and FaceTime people and connect with people on social media that are far away or whatever. But it never replaces like our God-given and designed to be in
Yeah.
community with God, with each other, and with creation.
Yeah.
And when you put an Oculus headset on, like my kids do, and you jump in, like it's
You
a
got one of those?
yeah, dude, it's sick.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
really
Have you not played with one?
No. How have I never been over to play with the VR thing?
tonight. I mean, come
On the next
over.
podcast, watch
Right?
Kyle as
Yeah.
he is Darth Vader.
I didn't know you had that.
I mean, it's you put it on and it's 360. and you're-
100%.
You're like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
They really wanted one. I was like, great, pool your money. So they fought about it, pooled it up, found a used one, made the guy an offer. They all kicked in, like $60 and bought it. And yeah,
I've never done it.
they're like, we want these games. I'm like, cool, buy a game. Like,
You put your phone in it? Is that what it is?
no,
No.
it's the
Phone
headset
thing?
itself.
Yeah, it connects to your internet and the whole thing.
Yeah, you play a blasting game. There's stuff coming everywhere.
Oh, we
There's
played
fishing.
Darth Vader, and you could like catch things,
What?
use the Force, and like. Anyways, sorry. Go
What,
back.
game,
to your
what
point.
game is that? I gotta maybe.
Yeah,
a
I think it's called
Christmas.
like Darth Vader.
Okay, I'll look it up. Maybe for Christmas present. Kids, don't listen to this episode.
Santa's gonna bring it. Don't listen.
Anyways, it's cool, but it's not sustainable. It's not
It's not real
long term.
life,
It's
yeah.
not real life. Like anything that's augmented reality, anything that's like not. Hey, we're living in houses next to each other, sharing
Yeah.
life. Like the journey of like God's changing my life, helping me get off of drugs or out of homelessness and moving forward, giving me purpose. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about, Kenny. Like God gives us purpose and direction. That's greater than what we can come up with, because He's God.
Yeah.
It's His universe. We're His creation. He knows us best. Like anything like that, it's just not sustainable. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You ever been over someone's house and watched a movie with 3D glasses on?
Oh My buddy in the day.
I
had one.
haven't. Did you? The 3D glasses phase, like,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
all,
He had
everything's
a
going to be 3D. It's going to be holograms.
He had a projector.
No, it's not.
And it was like, yeah,
It
you
didn't
only
work.
had two sets of, or yeah, 2 pairs of glasses. Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kenny, you're giving me the face like you have no idea what you're talking about.
I went to the movie theater though and watched 3D. but
Yeah.
not to
Yeah.
someone's house.
yeah.
My buddy
it
had a
was
3D
real.
projector.
It was like
yeah.
going to be the home thing.
Oh,
like
okay.
3D was going to catch on. All
Yeah.
this, and you would put it on. You're like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't real life. Is the point I'm trying to make? Like any of this, we're all going to live with Oculus headsets on and be Player One. That movie, you know, like we're
Yeah.
going to live in this virtual reality and have, you know, Avatar. Like no, we're not.
Yeah.
Like there's this hype. Don't get worried, people. We're humans. We're not built for that. It's not sustainable.
But to your point, I mean, I think that there's a draw to that, and we see lots of communities or lots of people who are drawn to, you know, I mean, it was the big internet boom and, you know, the chat room type thing, or even in this avatar, you know, space that you could create and be whoever you wanted and interact with people that way. And there's still a pretty big, you know, surge of people that would rather do that meet people in this kind of digital way. And to your point, it's always the fake substitute to what we are actually desiring, which is built into us and implanted by God, is to be in community and to be loved and to love people. And as humans, we're always going to we're going to substitute the thing that God gave us and intended for something that's a cheap fake. And so, again, it can scratch the surface for a little bit, and it can feel good for a while. But at the end of the day, we're going to realize what it is. It's a substitute for, I want to be loved, and I want to be liked, and I want to be cared for. And when you feel that in authentic community and small groups and in life and partnering with life with other people, having people pray for you and know who you are and know your needs, and when you experience the depth of that reality, you go, oh yeah, that fake thing was so much further removed and not even close to what the real thing is in life.
Yeah.
And we know we can always trust technology to work out all the time, so it'll always be there for us when we need it.
Yeah, there's never any issue there.
Is that why technology doesn't work all the time?
And they're
God's
not-
like, oh, listen, there's a bug. We're going to have a bug now there, so you
It's
can't
just
get
an
on.
update. That'll
You're like,
come
why
tomorrow.
doesn't my phone work? God's like, you need to get off of it.
Yeah,
Like, is
yeah.
that why technology? Anyways, that maybe is not true. But I remember, like, when I was in high school, I loved shellfish, seafood, you know, shrimp, that kind of stuff. I remember, like, Subway had crab for their sandwiches. I was like, sweet, go there. First time, and then, like, fine print, the little asterisk, imitation crab.
Crab with the
Yeah.
K.
I didn't ask a bunch of questions like, what? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What is that then? I just like, I'll get one of them crab sandwiches. It wasn't good.
Not quite
Kind of
the real
rubbery.
thing.
Not
Yeah.
sure what it was, but I ate it
It's
a
some
few
sort
times.
of white fish they flavor with crab. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm not sure, right? You know, you
Well,
can.
we ate a lot of crab with a K when I was a kid.
Is that what you know when it's bad? Or
No,
wrong?
yeah, that's what they call it.
It's imitation.
It's called crab. It's crab,
Crab
meat,
with a
but
K.
they spell it with a K.
with a K.
So they can
Yeah.
call it crab meat.
I'll be on the lookout for
Yeah.
the K,
Yeah.
not the
Crab.
C.
No, it's crab meat, guys. It's just
Okay.
crab with a K.
Crab with a K. Okay. Well, anyways, we have covered a lot of topics
ground.
today. I don't know if we covered everything, but we covered a lot. So, but this full circle. Are you in with the Zags basketball?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
I do love Zags.
Okay, good. I don't know that I heard that out loud. I kind of got that feel. Kyle went right to the Seahawks. I just want to know if, then we can invite you back later for. It's kind of a prerequisite.
I guess there are people that I know that are like anti-Zags.
They're
but it's
anti-basketball.
Few and
Like
far
who
between.
live in
I was gonna
Spokane
say,
or Spokane area?
They're not. I wouldn't say they're. You have to be pretty hard-hearted and callous to be like, I'm anti-Zags. They're like, I don't really like basketball. I don't really watch them. I'm pro-Zags. I'm glad they're here and they're
I'll
a
find
national
people
team.
that like that. Like,
Yeah.
I know of the Zags, and of course I cheer for them. Whatever.
But
But
a
they're
lot
not
of,
watching,
A lot
they're
of
not-
transplants to the area might have their team.
Okay.
And so then they're like, no, I don't like the Zags because I always root for UCLA. Or,
That's
like,
fine. I'm okay with that.
I can go with that.
If you're a transplant or you grew up with a team, but because
even
I
then-
went.
fall in love with the Zags.
But even
But
then,
I
like-
went. I lived in Seattle for 9 years. I
Yeah.
never became a Huskies fan.
Yeah.
No, they were the
But
enemy.
even then, like, the Zags play in such a unique conference that it's not like you're like, oh, I came from LA, I'm a UCLA fan, so I can't root for the Zags.
Yeah.
It's like you're not really ever rooting against. I don't know.
Yeah,
Go
they're America's team right now.
Oh. That's true.
So everybody
love
can
them.
jump on board. Even if you are a UCLA fan, jump on board. Be a Zags fan because it'll be a better
It's fun.
cheering year.
It's a
for
great
you.
wide.
Oh man, it's so great. I'm hoping to get to the McCarthy Athletic Center.
Ooh,
Watch one
yeah.
in person this year. So
Yeah.
should be good. anyways, wrapping it up here. Kenny, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks
We
for
appreciate
having
you sharing your insights of who you are, your story, and following Jesus. We appreciate it. I know it's going to be helpful for some folks listening in just to resonate and connect with what God's doing in their life. Maybe somebody's wrestling with some of their direction and calling, and they're like, got a vision of an airplane or something from God, and they're like, I should lean into who God's made me and follow him. It'll be the best way to live life. And so thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Before we wrap up, if you're still listening in, this Sunday we got a special thing.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't you hit that up?
We're last week of our High Sounding Nonsense message series, and the next week's content is going to be driven by you. So if you got a question about high sounding nonsense, maybe something that came up in this podcast or as you've been listening, you can text in your questions, 509-900-5700. That'll go right to an anonymous text app, and we will answer your questions live and in person Sunday morning at 10 a.m. So don't miss out on that.
And that's November 21st. So if you listen in later, still send them in. Yeah. We'll answer it here on the podcast.
Maybe we will.
Ooh, exactly. So
that.
we want to help the people. So if you got questions, we'll have something for an answer.
There you go.
Whether it's helpful or not, to be determined. But we hope you have a great week following Jesus. We'll talk with you soon.